All right. So now we have some cards that we expect to break out, possibly in the next standard format. And this is another one where I want you to go first. I am actually much more interested in this list
I
than
think
I
so
am
too.
the
Like,
last list.
I think the last list we did, that was kind of like our sour grapes.
Yeah.
Like,
Getting all
this,
the hate out,
yeah, this is more like we're optimistic. These are cool cards, things we kind of want to play with, things we're hoping some new cards come and give some support to.
Yep.
Some that might be right on the cusp that maybe this will be the time. So like I think this will be a lot more fun.
And
Even
maybe
just
they'll get the
from
support they need.
yeah, this is the clouds are parting, the sunlight's coming through, and we're trying to paint a nice little rainbow here, I think is what we're doing. But yeah, for me, okay, I'll start with my honorable mention.
Okay.
And this is one I've dabbled with a little bit and I've been trying to make it work, and that's Rise of the Dread Marn.
Such a sweet card.
It's a cool card. Like
It's so awesome.
One of the things about Rise of the Dread Marn that I think people don't know is that it doesn't even count your creatures that dies. It's just creatures that die.
Creatures. Yep.
Yeah, so you could even play it in a control type shell and you just wipe out your opponent's creatures and you're like, great, I'm gonna play this and get 4 dudes or whatever, right? Yep. That's a cool thing. But it also makes zombies. And we know we're going back to Innistrad that, at least so far in our history, has included a bunch of zombies.
Should have some zombies. We know it has some zombie support already because it's got that Champion of the Perished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it works in that deck. You know, it's an instant speed card, which is also very cool. So like it's got so much going for it. Like it's
after you foretell it, don't you cast it for just 1 black mana?
Yeah. Like it's just a cool, fun, thematic theme that I want it to be good.
So hear me out on this. You know the Blood on the Snow shell that plays like 3 or 4 Blood on the Snow, but also plays Shambling Ghast, Eye Twitch, Skullport Merchant, all those creatures. So imagine the deck doesn't even really play 2-drops other than Deadly Dispute, right? So imagine a game where you set up an Eye Twitch or 2, or a Shambling Ghast or 2, and a Skullport Merchant, and then you cast Blood on the Snow with one of these in the exile zone because you foretold it. So you blow up, an Eye Twitch or 2, a Shambling Ghast, a Skullport Merchant. You get value off of that, and you blow up whatever your opponent's got on their side of the table. And then for just a single black mana, you cast Rise of the Dread Marn, and what are you going to get? Like 5, 6 zombies off of that, and whatever you get back with Blood on the Snow.
I mean, in a way, you don't even have to Blood on the Snow, right? You could just use your merchant, sack some stuff during their end step, and get like 2 or 3 things.
That's a great point too. You got merchant to sack stuff.
Like that's a possibility. I mean, like
it's not bad. It's really not bad. There are ways to use that card. There really are.
That's what I'm saying. I think if we can get into a situation where the format has even just a zombie theme or whatever, I think it'll encourage more people to want to play this card.
Yeah.
Especially if you're able to get bonuses from something else for whatever reason, I think could be very good.
Right. I like the idea of a zombie deck too that doesn't mind sweeping the board, doesn't mind sacrificing its permanence to a Skullport or whatever when it needs to. I think that actually really plays well into like the theme, the flavor of zombies.
Yeah, imagine what if we get something that even lets you say sack creatures to, I don't know, put a +1/+1 on this creature every time it eats something, right? So like during your opponent's end step, you're like, great, I'm going to eat my 4 tokens, and then I'm going to do this thing and make 4 new tokens.
4 new tokens, right?
And maybe or maybe not eat those.
Like maybe there's a zombie anthem effect or something, so you're making 3 3s. Like there's already a zombie anthem effect at the 4-drop slot, which I don't love, but it does exist. It does exist. So yeah, that's really spicy. I like that pick a lot. My picks don't feel as spicy as that, but what I'll do is I'll dovetail with the zombie theme, because I think that white could get playable. Not the color, but the creature.
The 3/2.
Yeah, WIGHT.
Yeah.
The 2 mana 3/2, whenever a creature that it damages dies, you get a 2/2. That guy could be pretty good because we've already seen Champion of the Perished. Champion of the Perished looks like it plays really well with white because, turn 2, you play your white, you get a counter on Perished. And then if white kills anything in combat or something, it doesn't matter if your white dies, you'll still get a 2/2 and a counter on your champion, which I think is pretty sweet.
That's true. Yeah.
So I think that if the zombie deck is real, white is probably, looking to be the premier 2-drop for that deck. We don't know what other zombies we're going to see in the set, but just what we know, we're going to want to play Champion of the Parish. We know that. And not only actually does white work really well with that, giving you extra zombie tokens, putting more counters on it. But now that I think about it, think of how well Rise of the Dreadmarn would work with the Champion of the Parish out. Yeah. Yep. It's like you get 3-4 zombie tokens, your champion gets huge, possibly EOT. Like, it's pretty silly.
I mean, that's a good start to a zombie deck already. And Shambling Gas is also a zombie.
Yeah, it's a zombie too. And you want to play that card all day. So
that's pretty
something
cool.
there. We got at least like 2 playable 1-drop zombies, a playable 2-drop zombie. Something's going on.
I need to go pick me up a playset of Rise of the Dreadmarn.
Maybe. I bet they're like 25 cents or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say while they're under 50 cents.
Exactly. What do you have next?
Okay, my number 5, and this is a card I believed in from the time it was previewed, and I was shocked that people weren't talking about this card because there's no downside practically to this card, and I think. Well, it's starting to see a little more play here at the back end of standard 2022 season, but it's Orcus, Prince of Death.
I love this card so much.
I don't understand.
I think this was my number 1 sleeper in the top 10 sleepers video this time around.
I just don't understand how it didn't get hype. It's worst case scenario. If you spend no extra mana, it's a 4 mana 5/3 flyer with trample.
That's like good.
That's it. That's the worst thing you're going to get out of it when you cast it.
5 power Flample guy for 4 is like a good rate.
That means, except for Inferno of the Star Mounts, it pretty much fights every relevant dragon.
Yep.
So that already solves a lot of problems. It gets past the angels and stuff for the most part. It tramples past stupid bird tokens or whatever left over from epiphanies and whatnot. And then when you decide to pay X, it actually has huge upside.
Huge.
Either wipe out the board and leave you an Orcus, or you get 3-4 things out of your graveyard.
Yeah, you get like a mini like Agadeem's Awakening type effect.
It's fantastic.
It's so good.
And that was kind of my thought too. I'm like, if we were playing Agadeem's Awakening and we could only get certain cards and we had to spend X amount, but this just lets us get whatever we want for however much mana.
Like I can actually get back 2 drops with an Orcus, and I can't do that with an Awakening.
But you also get a 5/3 flyer out of it.
Yeah,
like that's the thing with trample.
This huge board. Like I love that it plays well against different kinds of decks. Against aggro, we're gonna -2/-2 everything and just blow the board up. But against control, this is kind of a late game, get my board presence back after a sweeper kind of spell. Like it plays well on a lot of different axes, and you don't see cards at this kind of rate, because 4 mana is such a good rate.
Yeah,
I've said this before, but it reminds me of like a Bizarro world, like an evil Hydroid Krasis.
Like the opposite of a Hydroid Krasis.
The opposite of a Hydroid Krasis. Rather than gain you life, it can lose you some life, but it can also give you this huge board presence. Hydroid Krasis gave you cards in hand. This gives you board presence, or it takes away board presence. So again, it's kind of like an opposite Hydroid Krasis in the way that it scales. But in a way, it scales better than Hydroid Krasis, because you can just play this for 4 mana and it's a 5/3 Flample, and that's good.
Yeah, the only downside I would say to Orcus is because it's costed exactly the same as an Immersturm Predator.
Yeah.
Depending on what your deck's trying to do, you may not have room for more than like 1 or 2 of them.
I think a lot of decks want to play Predator, whether it's because they're playing dragons and they want to turn on like Dragon's Fire, or maybe they're playing like the Eye Twitch, Shambling Gas, Deadly Dispute package, and they want to play Immersturm to have things to say.
But it might still play 4 Predator and 2 Orcus.
Easy. I mean,
that might still be my setup.
The deck wants multiple, 4, 5, 6 drops, so it has a way to pay off the treasure production. And I find in a lot of these decks, like I've told everybody that the Rakdos Treasure deck list that we did, the deck tech that we did this season, is probably the best deck tech I put in the channel in like literally 2 years. And a lot of that is Orcus, because Orcus gives you this amazing treasure payoff, and it's not hard to get either. Like, people think that Orcus is going to cost this ridiculous amount of mana you'll never get to if you want to like crippling fear, if you want to -3/-3 everything. But it's actually super easy with all the treasure.
Yeah,
like Orcus for 7 mana on turn 5. It's not hard at all.
Oh, here's another sick thing, because if you have Kalane, you can actually spin the treasure, get your X off of Orcus, and
This
then you
is
get a bigger
nuts.
Orcus.
Yeah,
Like,
I didn't, for some reason, I just like left this out of the deck tech. I didn't, like, I think I only like pointed it out in passing, like, oh yeah, you spend treasure on Orcus and it gets bigger if you have a Clane out. But like, I don't think I really hammered home how ridiculously good that can be. To, you know, -3/-3 everything on the board, and I have an 8 power flying trample guy. Like,
yeah,
Orcus. Yeah, I agree. Is all I can
card
say.
has
like,
to get more play. Like if it doesn't,
really
I'm
good
gonna be
pick
shocked.
there.
I'm gonna be shocked.
Like, you're right that it's been getting a little bit more play, but I don't think that enough people realize how busted Orcus is. It's such a good card.
Yeah, damn
But,
good.
see, my number 5 here is it's gonna be Velomachus Lorehold.
I like that one too, though.
This is another card that's been seeing a little bit more play as people try it out in like reanimator builds and stuff. But I think this card didn't really see like any play in normal standard. It's been seeing a little bit of play in 2022. And I think that a larger card pool only benefits this card, right?
Yep.
Because we'll have more instants and sorceries that it can cast whenever it gets in and stuff like that. Maybe we'll have a better reanimation piece in the Halloween set. Like, if we get a better reanimation piece, if we get better instants and sorceries to cast with Velomachus, it could be one of the better cards in standard. And it probably is, just period, the best reanimation target in the format.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't disagree. I think with us going into Innistrad, there's a good chance there's going to be at least one quality reanimator spell that you can add to the package. And there's already a couple of others you can play now.
Yep, I'll get to one on my list here in a minute.
Yeah, so if you want to do that, that's an option. I think if you want to ramp into it, like you're saying, with all the treasure and whatever, that's a thing you can do. I think the only thing that's going to affect this card is going to be what do you get in the 4 and 5 mana spells that you want to play. Right? That's really it. But if, assuming as the, like you're saying, as the format gets bigger, we get more choices, the card only gets better.
It's like I see people right now playing like Seize the Spoils off of this, Unexpected Windfall. And like, those are fine cards. Don't get me wrong. You need stuff to be able to discard cards in your reanimator build, and they fit the bill. But I think those decks can be powered up.
Oh, see, I'm a Lorehold Command kind of person. That's what I play off mine.
I love Lorehold Command. Lorehold Command could have easily been on either one of our lists. That's a really good Magic card.
It's
actually
a great card.
Just the last, like, a little aside here, but just the last like 4 days, I feel like I've been getting absolutely like out of nowhere bodied by Lorehold Command like way more often.
Yeah, the card's fantastic.
Like, it's really good, dude. Like, just the ability to like Lightning Helix something and then do another thing is like good enough half the time.
Oh, the
like,
surprise indestructibility is
yes.
huge.
God, has it murdered me on blocks like twice now?
Yep.
Like,
so not only that, you get intro and a randomly +1 attack. I don't know why.
Yeah, but randomly they just do that like, for you. And the way the card is ordered, you can like make the 3/2 and still and then give it +1/+0 haste and indestructible. Like, that card could have been on either one of our lists. It's really
super good.
But what do you have next up?
Number 4 for me, and this is the card I would say a lot of people were disappointed in, I think, when it got previewed, but that's Zariel, Archduke of Avernus.
Oh, yeah, the
red Planeswalker.
Red Planeswalker, yeah.
I
like her.
Yeah, I had a Rakdos Super Friends deck I put up on my channel like 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
And it was a lot of fun, and it was largely because of this card. I think the incremental damage from the Devil dying was big. Being able to give stuff haste was big. And we're also, again, going back to Innistrad, where we know that's where a lot of the Devil cards are.
Yeah,
so if there's anything that has a bonus for that, or get something whenever a creature dies or whatever else, that's only going to give this card more value.
What is the ultimate? Is it a more attack steps?
Yeah,
thing?
You get another attack step.
That's what I thought. That's pretty good too.
Yeah, there's not much bad about it.
Like, I like this card because on some board state, let's say you're behind. Okay, you can't be like way behind. That's my least favorite thing about this card, is you kind of have to have specific board states, but they're common board states. There's one board state where you're behind and you create a Devil token, and that Devil token can block their biggest guy and like kill their Professor of Symbology, their Elite Spellbinder, whatever. That's big. But there's also the board where you're ahead and you drop it, you immediately get either a creature or an Anthem effect, because it's like +1/+0 in haste until end of turn.
+1 in haste. Yeah.
And if it sticks around for more than one turn, it gets really righteous, because like you can drop a 5-drop creature that would normally have haste and haste it. And like it gets so good when if it stays on the table. There's been a couple of games where I played with this card in more sort of control-y builds, and you can wipe the table, you can wipe the board, and now suddenly you have a creature factory, right? And you also have something that, like, if you draw a creature from now until the rest of the game, that creature has haste. Like basically every creature in your deck now has haste. And that's huge.
Oh, there was so much when I played with it, there was so much incremental damage from just the like one devil. And then if you got to a point where it wasn't beneficial for the opponent to attack, it's okay. Well, now I have 2. Yep. So now I can kill a 4-power thing, right? And now I have 3 and I can kill a 6. So eventually there's a point where, okay, well, now I have 4 devils. I'm just going to start attacking with them. Like, now
and then if you block them, then you're still going to take damage, and you know.
Yeah, so it's really good. Now, don't get me wrong. I think like a lot of the Planeswalkers people like, the effects are bigger and more immediately impactful. But I think this is one that as decks come around and you start building around things, maybe some versions of the red decks or whatever that want like a mid-rangey thing to have more value, like it's going to fit more builds than I think people are giving early consideration to.
Absolutely. And I feel like the card actually goes in more decks than people think. Like people see the card and they just think aggro, you know, oh, this goes in an aggro deck. But no, I think that it actually has its fair share of like decent game states in mid-range decks. You know,
like I said, the best deck I had for it was actually a Super Friends Rakdos control deck.
That's as mid-range as it gets, you know?
Yeah.
And you're right. Just if you can keep the board relatively clear, not have to worry about Zariel getting hit so much, then just the incremental value of making a devil every turn is like way better than people think it is.
Oh, the value of that alongside a Lolth was spectacular.
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah.
Because when the devil dies, you get to hit them, but then you're putting counters back on the Lolth. Like, so good.
That sounds good. Like just turns where you go like, okay, create 2 spiders and a devil with my planeswalkers. Like that seems good enough. It really
spectacular.
Does. But what do I have next? That's a good pick, man. Okay, yeah. I said I was going to bring up a reanimation piece. This is something I've been obsessed with over the last week. We just played it on stream last night. Thwart the Grave. This is the party reanimation. I
had respect for this one earlier, but I'm kind of starting to like it. I think I'm with you.
I've liked this card since it first got previewed, just because like there's a world in Christmas land, but there's a world where you pay 2 mana for this, and you get 2 creatures back from your graveyard, and they can be whatever mana cost you want. Like there's a world where you get like 10 mana value off your 2 mana investment in this card, but I don't think that's what we're necessarily trying to do with it. On stream last night, what we were doing, my favorite builds with Thwart the Grave are builds that don't really care that much about party. Not really. What we were doing last night on stream, and I honestly want to do this again because I feel like I made some misplays from not having played the deck enough, right? But what we were doing last night is we would play Thwart the Grave and get back Blade Historian, because it's a cleric. And you can get back 1 party type. You can get a cleric back. So you get back Blade Historian and Doomscar Titan, which doesn't have a party type, right? But that gives all your creatures +1/+0 and haste when it ETBs. So you get a hasty, basically 5-power double strike Doomscar Titan and a 3-power haste double strike Blade Historian. You just hit your opponent for 16. So what we were trying to do is set up a thing. Yeah. What we're trying to do is set up a thing where we blood on the snow, get a creature back with the blood on the snow, and then next turn you hit that Thwart the Grave, Blade Historian, Doomscar Titan, board is mostly clear, I win the game. You know, and it works sometimes. You can also do this, by the way, with Morog, the 6 mana Minotaur legend guy.
The landfall one.
Right. That guy's a warrior. So you can get back a party type, you can get back a warrior, the Minotaur, and a Blade Historian, and a Doomscar Titan, and give both of them haste. It's attack and then play your land in second main phase, get another attack step with Morog and win the game that way. So that's just one thing you can do with Thwart the Grave. And I've seen people do all kinds of other stuff. Returned Past Caller. This is a 6 mana like Boros uncommon.
Ooh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. But Past Caller allows you to do, it's a cleric. So it allows you to cast Thwart the Grave, get Past Caller and another creature back, whatever you want, put him on the battlefield, and then use Past Caller to get the Thwart the Grave back and put it in your hand, to where if they kill your guys, you can just do the combo over again. Like there are so many nuts combos with this card.
In general, you know, if we're going to be in an environment where there are a lot of sweepers and a lot of things going to the graveyard, having one or two things that just let you reanimate two things is actually pretty powerful.
It's so good. Like if Blood on the Snow is a good deck, Thwart the Grave is a pretty good card.
Yeah.
You know, like people are probably going to more lean on Agadeem's Awakening, Orcus and stuff like that. But I think people are really underestimating how good Thwart is, because like people have mostly said party stuff is bad, but we see like Bant Party is getting a little bit of love right now in 2022 standard. People are coming around to party. And as we re-examine party as a subtype, especially as we get more cards in the card pool that have party creature types and stuff, I really think we need to look at Thwart, because there's just some nuts. Did you know you can get back a Cyclone Summoner with this because it's a wizard? Now you have to cast Cyclone Summoner from your hand.
Yeah.
To get that ETB trigger, but still you can get back a 7/7 and then whatever creature you want besides that.
Yeah, there's a lot of random things that you can get out there.
Like it's just a card that I want to explore more with, and I'm really excited about, because the more cool creatures we see, especially the more cool creatures that are clerics, rogues, wizards, warriors, and all that. This card's going to be able to do some cool stuff, and I've got my eye on it. But what you got for number 3?
I have one, and I feel like this is a card that's, I think, is already good, but very underrated, and probably gets a benefit from vampires existing, especially in 4 months from now when we get the Crimson Vow or whatever.
Crimson Vow is going to really kick the vampire total up a notch.
But Nighthawk Scavenger. I mean, this card just does a lot. Like I put it into a lot of my mid-rangey decks, a lot of my like, even some of my what I would call more controlling decks, because it's a life gainer. It basically acts as removal because it has death touch. It flies and gets over all the big creatures, and it's only 3 mana.
But it also like brick walls, like Goldspan Dragons, Imriths, all
great.
that stuff. It has a problem with Immerstern Predator on occasion.
Sure.
I hate that it like dies to Elite Spellbinder, but at least it kills the Elite Spellbinder at the same time.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Exactly. That's a fine trade, We played Finn, I think, on stream like 2 or 3 weeks ago. In Nighthawk Scavenger, like the games that we won, we actually won a lot more games than I anticipated winning with Finn. But a lot of the games we won, it's like were because of Nighthawk Scavenger.
I wouldn't be surprised if you just won without even poisoning your opponent. Just attack for 5, attack for 5, attack for 5.
I think we won 1 game through poison, but there were games where you're attacking for 6 with Nighthawk Scavenger, and it's a good magic card. I totally agree.
Good. I'm always surprised I don't see more of it. Even we're talking about, recently I put together a rogues list.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, maybe, it's like it flies. So it's like, sure, let's do it.
I think these rogues builds that might, maybe lean a little bit more heavily on Zareth-san in the upcoming standard. If rogues wants to be a thing, I think Zareth-san is the path you take. Then Nighthawk Scavenger is definitely in that deck. 100%.
Absolutely.
It's such an impressive clock. It lines up really well against all the other threats in the format right now. I like Scavenger too. Like that's a really good pick, dude.
So what do you got for us, Bandit? You're number 3.
Number 3, I have to choose between 2 cards, but I'm gonna say Waking the Trolls.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Number 3.
That's a fun one.
First of all, there's a ton of creature lands. Like creature lands in games all the time right now. So whether it's Faceless Haven, Hall of the Storm Giants, or whatever, Hive of the Eye Tyrant, Lair of the Hydra, it's a good idea to have an answer to those. There's a lot of decks where I find one of the hardest things to do is answer these cards, because like I don't want to play Poison the Cup in my black decks. Like I'll play it, but 9 times out of 10, the reason I'm playing Poison the Cup is to kill Faceless Haven, where I could play Power Word Kill instead, but I'll play an objectively worse card to kill the things I need to kill. When it comes to Waking the Trolls, not only do you get to take those things out, but you then get to just get them. Right? If you blow up a Lair of the Hydra, you get to get their Lair of the Hydra on your side of the table, or their Hall of the Storm Giants, whatever. There's also multiple ways, which I'll talk about in my next entry. There's multiple ways to get back Awaking the Trolls from the yard after it's gone and just do it again. You just pointed out Zariel a couple of cards ago. What you can do with the Zariel on the table, which is obviously in this color combination, is like play Zariel on 4, hopefully protect it until you get down Waking the Trolls, and then when you get all of your trolls on the 3rd chapter, give them haste.
Yeah.
Swing with all your 4/4s. You can also do this with an Alrund's Epiphany, right? It goes off, cast Epiphany. Now you're effectively giving them a form of haste. And there's a bunch of ways to ramp to it, whether it's treasure or just green ramp, you know. And I think that this is a card that not only because of the creature lands, but because of the fact that the third chapter is a win condition in and of itself, if the format slows down a hair, it might have an opening to be a real card.
Okay. I can respect that. I think it's one of those cards, like it is pricey to cast, right? I mean, that's the only downside really, but I do like what you're saying though. There's like, it's an answer to these creature lands, or just who knows what other lands we're going to get in the next couple sets. Like, and there are slowly things that support it, right? I'm not the biggest supporter of like land destruction, but when you have to work for it.
I am shamelessly, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but when you have to work for land destruction, I don't have a problem with it, right? Yeah, when you're having to pay 5 and 6 mana, then like, okay, cool. You get to do a super sweet thing. And like you're saying, you can take the land and use it yourself, which is pretty sweet. So I'm all about that. And you know, just more trolls is awesome. So
more trolls, yep.
Yeah, it's a fun card, and I do think it actually has some uses. So I wouldn't be too upset if there was a Waking the Trolls deck that got some time for a couple months.
I mean, one more thing I just want to point out, just last thing before we move on, is that we see a format right now where a lot of people are casting mascot exhibitions. People are casting Alrund's Epiphanies. People are casting Magma Opus. Like, people are casting these 6, 7, and 8 mana cards. And if you can ramp into Awaking the Trolls, I think blowing up a land is even more consequential than it normally would be. Keeping your opponent off of Alrund's Epiphany for a turn is obviously an attractive proposition. So I think that for that reason, this card could get better. But what you got? What are you on, number 2 or 3? I think we're on 2.
Number 2. Yeah, my number 2. This one isn't as like flashy as the other things I put up, and I think it's a little bit situational. But I'm going with Battle Mammoth, mostly
interesting.
I feel like if we end up in a world where there's a lot of spot removal, this could end up being the type of card that green wants.
Yeah,
you know, it's also bigger than just about every other creature that people are playing. So, I mean, 6/5 is huge. It does have trample. If you really need to, you can go ahead and foretell it. So you can play it on turn 4.
If you have to.
Yeah, it has a lot going for it. I also did some crazy stuff recently where I had this out with the Volo, where I got 2 of them. So when they went to kill one, I got 2 cards, and that was pretty sweet.
Pretty sexy.
Yeah. So there's some corner case things you can do with it. But I do think this is a type of card that could be pretty good, especially if we move into a world where there's maybe, like we're saying, zombie tokens or whatever, where you can trample over them.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Battle Mammoth for a lot of reasons. I like the way it lines up. I like that one of the more played removal spells in the format is probably going to be that 2 mana black thing, you know, destroy target creature at instant speed, you lose 2 life.
Mm-hmm.
And it would feel really bad to target a Battle Mammoth with that. Like, lose 2 life and they get to draw a card. Like, that's bad.
Well, sometimes the other good thing about Battle Mammoth is your opponents almost want to kill that first, leaving your other real threat that's been doing work, right?
Yeah, they just don't want you to get the card advantage.
Yeah, so it's like, well, okay, maybe I kill that, but then you get a card plus get to have the 6/5 or whatever. It's like, I guess. You know,
it's like, I think that maybe things like people are playing more Soul Shatter, people are playing more Blood on the Snow,
sure.
And for those reasons, cards like Battle Mammoth might not be as playable, but I still think that people are, especially if we get some decent spot removal, people are going to jump at the chance to play that over a card like Soul Shatter.
Oh yeah, but if you're playing like you're saying, the new removal that got previewed plus like Power Word Kill or whatever,
yeah,
like I could see that being the removal package for some decks. And if so, something like Battle Mammoth becomes more powerful.
Really good, and I think that's a good pick.
So what do you got?
Yeah, I'll make this my number 2. It's like, is this number 2 or number 1? Number 2 is Reconstruct History.
That's a fun one.
What I was saying a second ago was Waking the Trolls, right? It turns out one of the best things to get back with a Reconstruct History is Waking the Trolls. I've been doing like a Naya control type thing. Yeah. And it is unbelievably like tilting to opponents to have to deal with Waking the Trolls a second time. But that's not all. You know, History can also go in these Mardu decks, so it can get back like a Valky that died, and now you can play your Tybalt, you know.
And History gets one of everything that's not a creature, right?
Yep. It gets one of yeah, exactly. So you can play like a Planeswalker, like a kind of Super Frenzy list, and get back, like, you can effectively play. One thing I saw I haven't played this, but I saw somebody playing it, was like a 4-color list that plays like Blood on the Snow, and Waking the Trolls and
Ooh.
Reconstruct History
Ooh.
and like all these just like banger haymaking cards,
Does that even function? Like that feels like
it
so
seems
crazy.
like it wouldn't, but it does. Like
Okay.
the way they got me was they hit Blood on the Snow, and then they Waking the Trolls, and then when it died, they immediately reconstructed history to get their Blood on the Snow and they're Waking the Trolls back. And like, yeah, you just how do you play out from under that? Like
Yeah,
what do
that's
you do?
rough.
So Reconstruct is good in like these weird janky lists that like you don't see enough. That's what I like about Reconstruct is I think there's so much more to do with this card than we currently like understand. And again, just like a couple of other cards I've talked about, I think this card benefits greatly from a larger card pool.
Sure.
So I really like Reconstruct. I think it's actually one of low key the best card advantage pieces in the format. It's honestly similar to like a Harness Infinity that costs almost like it costs half of that to cast.
I would say if we end up in a world where something like a Mardu or a Jeskai kind of mid-range or control, actually just a control deck that's either Jeskai or Mardu could be very good.
Like a control deck that doesn't play blue, like you don't have access to other options. In blue,
because then you're not worried about drawing things, you're usually about reusing what you already had.
Yeah, restocks. I mean, this is still just a 4-mana restock. Whether it's Graven Lore or Behold the Multiverse or whatever, like ultimately those are going to draw you fewer cards than this will. You do have to engineer a point in the game you can cast a 4-mana sorcery and probably say go, and that's easier said than done. But the amount of payoff you get from setting this card up is usually enough to win the game. So I've really been liking Reconstruct lately, and I've especially like as a deck builder, I've liked all the different directions you can approach the card from. So I really
should definitely give that more attention. I dig it.
I think everyone should. I just think that a lot of like really talented deck builders haven't looked at Reconstruct enough. There's a lot you can do with this card. Are we on your number one?
Yeah. What is my number one? And this is one I'm kind of already been toying around with, but again, knowing we're going to Innistrad, it probably gets better. And I have a feeling people have ignored it because they look at the snow part of it first. But Narfi, Betrayer King. God, that's because it gives a bonus to both snow things and to zombies.
Yep.
And we can still use our snow mana for various things if we need to, because sending stuff to the graveyard probably isn't the worst thing when you're playing zombies. But Narfi can come back anyway. If you just spend the 3 snow mana.
So like we just talked about how we're losing ECD, Extinction Event, some other exile stuff, and there's still exile removal in the format. Baleful Mastery, like there's some stuff. I guess Draconic Intervention, Crush the Weak. I mean, there's some stuff, but it's nowhere near as played as that other stuff. So just Narfi being able, like in a blue-black control shell or something, he's not the Scarab God or anything, but like Narfi being able to come back on his own, kind of good enough sometimes.
Yeah, and that's exactly it for me. It's just the card's good enough all by itself, and it's a lot of extra value, and it's hard to deal with.
It really is.
I mean, you have to exile it, or you're just dealing with the big body again and again and again. And if you're built around zombies, all your stuff's going to get a bonus. And as we were talking about earlier, there's already a bunch of good quality 1 and 2 and 3 cost zombies we're going to have, and we don't even see the rest of the coming sets yet.
Like, what else is a zombie and definitely goes in your snow deck and gets boosted by this?
What's that?
Faceless Haven.
Yep.
And all creature types. Counts. So, I mean, it would get it because it's snow regardless. But like, just imagine a turn where you bring back your Narfi. It comes into play tapped or whatever. But like next turn, like let's say you Blood on the Snow or some other sweeper and you bring back a creature. You bring back your Narfi. Next turn, you can like swing for, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, you can swing for like 9. You just Narfi and then activate Faceless Haven and swing with both of them. I'm pretty sure that's like 9 damage.
Yeah.
Which is really good on an otherwise empty board. Like that's unbelievable. So yeah, just the fact that it's a recursive creature in a format that will have far less access to these exile removal spells, like just that in of itself. But yeah, if we see some zombie playability too, like it's good for that reason too. So actually, it's a really fantastic. I keep telling you this. That's a really good pick.
I think it's one of those cards that, as we got away, like early on, people tried to do stuff with like blue-black snow decks or blue-green snow decks, and people kind of got away from Narfi. Now I think we can kind of revisit that and say like, okay, well now the zombie part also matters.
Yep.
So now we're getting all the value. Is it worth it? I think when we're going to start looking at it.
It's like, especially if we get a zombie that's, also recursible.
Yeah.
That way, it really doesn't matter how often your opponent sweeps the board. It's like, well, I can get my Narfi back. I can get my other guy back. I can get both of them back, and Narfi boosts the other guy. I've got my Faceless Haven over here. So,
do we get just straight up blue zombies of some kind that fit right into the deck too?
Because zombies have been blue before. It's not like they've never done that. And I would really like to see them toy around more with differently colored zombies.
Yeah, so there's some options for sure.
Yeah. But I don't know if I can top that. I really, because Narfi is such a good pick. But
I tried, man. I put real thought into this list.
See, number one isn't like, I don't think it's a super spicy pick. And it's a card that we've seeing more play recently.
Okay.
But again, this is just like some of the other things. This is a card that benefits from a larger card pool. This is a card that could benefit from certain creature types being in the format. And this is a card that benefits from people wanting to play stuff like Blood on the Snow, Alrund's Epiphany, all these incredibly expensive cards that swing the game. That is Concerted Defense.
Ooh, I have played a little bit of that one. It's good.
I've been playing it too. You see it in these Bant party decks that are kind of a thing now, like not quite, but almost a thing in 2022 standard. And there are cards in that, like Nimble Trap Finder, the 2-mana 2/1 that gets through unblocked and like lets all your dudes draw cards. You have a full party. Like there are good blue cards, Linvala's in that deck. So there are reasons to play blue in that deck. But Concerted Defense, along with Linvala for the exact same reason, but like Concerted Defense is like the reason to play blue in that deck. Because you spend all of your time like getting together your party, getting your 3 or 4 creature types that are important to you. And then Blood on the Snow just ruins it. Or Battle of Frost and Fire just ruins it, And Concerted Defense is just like not the best counterspell in the format, but it is the cheapest counterspell in the format that just it lets you spend most of your mana on your turn and still blow out your opponent's big play. And I think people need to start paying more attention to that.
I don't even know if it needs to be played in particularly a party deck. Right?
Yeah, I don't either.
You just need a deck that has some number of party creature types. Yep. Right? Because if you're playing, say, like some type of blue-white aggro thing, it's like, okay, well, you do have some clerics that already exist because like Luminarch Aspirant is a cleric.
Elite
right?
Spellbinder.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. You can probably have a couple of warriors in there. And like,
Usher of the Fallen is a warrior.
Yeah, so even if you just got, and your opponent had to pay 3 extra mana, like that's probably still going to be good enough a lot of the time.
Most of the time, yeah. Even for like in the early game, even against their spot removal and stuff.
For sure.
It's probably going to be good enough. You get like, people often spend what they have the mana to spend.
Yeah.
All the way up to like turn 7 or 8 in this format because of Epiphany and stuff like that. But if it's still the early game and someone's trying to take out, a very key creature, or they're trying to sweep the board, it doesn't matter if it's turn 3 and they're casting a 2-mana removal spell. If you have a party type out, you're countering that spell. And even just that tempo swing can mean this huge difference.
I think
I've got an Archpriest of Iona out. I need to protect my Masked Vandal so I can keep all my creature types, and Archpriest can do its thing on my combat stuff. And just a Concerted Defense is usually all it takes. So.
I think one thing people forget too is this card always is going to have your opponent spend at least 1 more. At a minimum, it's a 1-mana mana leak, right? But for each creature type, it's an additional 1. And I think when I've talked to people before and we've been deck building, I think people haven't processed that. It's like, well, if I don't
people
have
think
anything,
you have to have a party type out to do literally anything, and that's not how it works.
Nope, it's minimum of 1, no matter what.
It's basically like a Force Spike negate combination. Naturally. But if you have people don't understand, if you have like a Luminarch Aspirant, then it costs them 2 mana to cast like 2 extra mana to cast spells. And that's a lot.
Yeah.
Like 2's kind of a lot because people try to play on curve, So I don't know. I think it's actually one of the most underplayed counter spells in the format since it came out. I've honestly thought that Concerted Defense was one of the best party cards since Zendikar Rising came out. One of the best reasons to play party. And I think that only gets more true in the upcoming standard, especially again, if we get some really playable, aggressively costed creatures with party subtypes, like Concerted Defense is.
I would say any blue creature, probably not blue-green, but I think blue-red, blue-black, whatever, blue-white, like they could probably all play that. Blue-green, I think because you get the command and you have the other a spell that you can fight or counter a non-creature spell, whatever.
Oh yeah, decisive denial.
Yeah, you probably play
God,
those.
that's a good spell too, man.
Yeah, you play those instead, I think. But if you're not in blue-green, I think anything else that's blue with creatures probably can play that.
Yeah, I especially like it in like blue-white builds.
Yeah, I think so too.
People forget because people just think that like, oh, why not play Negate? That's 2 mana and it definitely counters the spell. And it's like in these like small ball kind of tempo-based aggro decks where the first few turns are where you live, 1 mana makes this huge, like unbelievable difference. It's you can spend more of your mana on your turn. And that's exactly what you want to be doing. So
imagine getting somebody's like well, any of the sac effects, actually, when they go to pay mana, sacrifice something, and then they don't get anything out of
anything. Like, can you imagine you counter their Deadly Dispute after they've countered, like after they've gotten rid of their Shambling Ghast or whatever?
Yeah,
like,
that's rough.
Pretty sick. Pretty sick, dude.
For 1 mana.
Yep, a whole mana. You can counter a Ranger class with a Concerted Defense.
That's true, because it's just non-creature spell.
Yep, it's non-creature. Like, it's pretty dumb. Everything from Ranger class to Alrund's Epiphany, and like that's a good card.
Yeah.
But yeah, any other cards that maybe we want to sort of tangentially point out that weren't on our lists?
I don't know. Those are the ones I'm probably like most interested in. There's some other stuff in Standard 2022 I've been having fun with, but I think if somebody was picking up any of the cards we listed or planning to build around them, I think at least half of these have to like see more plays of significant situation. I can't see otherwise.
Like, I think that there's some pet cards, at least in my case, there are pet cards in here, but I think we both like outlined some like good rational reasons why these cards could see play. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing, right? Not just saying like this card's great, this card's bad, you need to go pick this up, whatever. Like being able to explain like, hey, here's scenarios you can look for or cards you can look for that
common play patterns. This card
that this could be good in these scenarios.
Agreed. But just let us know if we miss anything, if you have any cards that you think maybe are awesome and they're not seeing enough play, let us know down there in the comments section. And aside from that, I guess do all the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, comment down there below, do all of this stuff over here on one side of the screen or the other. Check out my Twitch, check out the Patreon if you want to support the channel. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but go ahead. Aside from that, PowrDragn also has some things to plug.
Follow me everywhere because you can find me at PowrDragn, PowrDragn. But again, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm a ridiculous follow. But you can follow me also.
You're a great follow, dude. Sorry to interrupt, but you're an awesome follow.
I have all types of stuff over on my Twitter feed, so you never know what you're going to see. But yeah, we have a podcast called Color of Magic that actually, by the time you're watching this, will be just short of episode 100. So that's pretty sweet. And you can come follow me over on Facebook Gaming, over on Twitch, or you can come hang out in my Discord and get deck help and stuff.
That's nice. Well, we appreciate y'all coming by and watching a couple of dudes just talk magic. Because I had a lot of fun, and I hope we get to collaborate again like relatively soon.
Yeah, at the very least, if they come by my YouTube channel, I'll have these in deck list guaranteed practically daily.
So make sure if you're here on my channel watching my content, you like weird janky stuff, and if you like that, go check out his channel. Go to PowrDragn, look at his stuff, because like I guarantee, matter of fact, I looked at your channel right before I came on, and I think, what is it, you have an Abzan list up right now that looks really, really good.
I'm also at, I think as of right now, 19 consecutive months of videos daily. Ooh. And averaging I believe the math was at 1.25 videos per day.
Wow.
In that window of time. So
it's better than CGB.
Yeah, so plenty of content. I believe I went from, like, when I started, I had like 8 home videos or something that I just had up for friends. So since then, I think I've done 740 videos, 750 videos, something like that.
Yeah, I think we just recently hit like a little over 1,000 videos on my channel. But
I'm gonna run you down.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've been doing content for 6 years. You've been doing content for how long?
About 18, 19 months.
Yeah, so you're gonna steamroll me here soon in terms of like total videos on the channel. But yeah, go check out PowrDragn if you like not only if you like janky content, but if you like well thought out deck lists, and a lot of times like decks that can win. That's what I like about that's what I like about Daquan, is that you put out content that not only is janky, but like it has a reasonable chance of winning, and you go over your thought processes very well. And during gameplay, you talk about why you're making certain decisions. And like, I don't know. I like the fact that like you put out janky decks that aren't just janky, but like I've seen them come up against like some of the best decks in the format, and the way you go about playing Magic and deciding how to play a game, like you'll often win too. So
I'll also tell people though, like, when we get to the end of a video, I'm like, yeah, that was fun, but yeah, I wouldn't put this on the ladder.
I do that on Twitch all the time, where I'm just like, we won like 7 or 8 games tonight. We won over 50% of our games, but like, don't play this deck.
Yeah, I'm a believer in, I think it's just as important to go through the experimental process and still say like, hey, let's not play this. So you at least get to see why it doesn't work. Like, because sometimes you might have an idea to play a deck and you see one of us put it on our channel and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's how you can go about it. But then after having been in the trenches, we look at you and say, yeah, that was neat, but don't do it.
Don't do it. Right.
Save you the money, the resources, the wild cards, whatever.
I say this on Twitch all the time. Like, that's what I have a Twitch channel for in the first place, much less a YouTube channel, is like, I'm sort of a lab rat more than I am the scientist. It's like we come up with the ideas, we test them out, we see if there's anything there or not. And I think that's actually a really good service to exist in the Magic community, because a lot of people want to try different ideas or some janky combo, but they don't want to spend all their money or wild cards on doing that. We do it for you, and we let you know if there's actually something there or not.
Honestly believe you could learn more from somebody not succeeding with the deck, because you at least get to see more interactions and ideas.
Yep.
Versus just seeing like the best cards over and over in different configurations.
Yep. I love that. So that's so much of what Standard is. So much, nowadays, it's just like, oh, I'm going to put the most powerful cards in my deck. So I don't know. Both of us, I feel like, are content creators that value the scientific or experimentation aspect of deck building. We celebrate deck building. And, again, if you enjoy my content for those reasons, go check out Mr. Dragon here. At his YouTube channel, PowrDragn, because this dude has a lot of really, really cool content that I want you to be exposed to. But
well, I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Literally anytime you want to talk, I am game to do that, because I haven't had a real conversation with another human being about Magic the Gathering in way too long. And this is one of the best Magic conversations I've had in a while too. So
yeah, people don't even know. I think we've been talking for probably like 3 hours. So they're probably only going to see like, I don't know, 40 minutes or something.
Something like that. It's like we talked for an hour before I even hit record. It's like, it's been a good one. And I, for one, really look forward to working again with you in the future.
Yeah, anytime, man, for sure.
Let us know if you guys liked it, you want to see more of it, anything we missed talking about down there, let us know. And I guess we'll catch you cats later. For PowrDragn, I am Dev from the place. I guess we'll see you later, guys. Love you all. And do the most important thing, which of course is to spread love and be kind. Bye, y'all.